What's up, everybody? It's CometX, and welcome back to more Magic Arena content. Today we have a premiere draft of Dominaria, and before I get into this draft, I do have to mention that every video this week is sponsored by Wizards of the Coast and the Magic Arena Content Creator Program. They've reached out to me to sponsor my stream and all of my content for this week, so on Friday they will be tweeting out my live stream, which will be 5 p.m. Central Time, with more premiere drafts of Dominaria if you're interested in that. And they have sponsored the content this week with 10,000 gems and 30 packs of every standard set that is on Arena, just added to my account. So thanks very much to Wizards of the Coast for that. But with that all out of the way, let's jump in to this premiere draft of Dominaria. Pretty sweet format, definitely a lot different than our recent draft formats. This is a format in which every single pack has a legendary card in it, which is really cool. Kind of the precursor to War of the Spark in that way. War of the Spark had a Planeswalker in every pack. This had a legendary card like Halar the Firefletcher in every pack. So pretty cool format. It's definitely slower than M21. You can splash a lot more. There's a really good common called Skittering Surveyor, 3 mana 1/2 artifact creature that searches your library for basic land and puts it into your hand. It is really good at letting you splash. Plenty of good bombs to splash, plenty of good removal to splash, and just a bit of a slower format in general to allow you to do those kinds of things. That being said, there are still some very aggressive decks. Blue-red wizards can be super aggressive, and any deck with white in it can be hyper aggressive as well. So with the little history of the format out of the way, so you know what we're getting into here, let's make our first pick. So there's a Mishra's Self-Replicator, which, while this format is pretty splashy and pretty slow, I think this card is even a little slow for this format. It can really take over the game, but it is an incredibly slow card overall. I think the best cards here would probably be the monocolored cards, like Knight of Malice is a 2 mana 2/2 first strike hexproof from white at worst. Deep Freeze is decent removal. I think I'll take the Knight of Malice. Halar the Firefletcher is cool, but taking a gold card on your first pick, that is a 2-colored card on your first pick, is pretty bold because you're much more likely to have to cut that if either of those colors is not getting passed to you very often in the draft. So I'm going to go with the Knight of Malice because it is very powerful for its mana cost, and it's a 1-colored card here. So 2 mana 2/2 first strike, hexproof from white, and if there's any white permanent on the battlefield, it's a 3/2 first strike for 2 mana, which is incredibly powerful. So now we have some really good removal with Goblin Barrage. This is a 4 mana sorcery to do 4 damage to a target creature at least. It can also do 4 damage to a player or planeswalker if you sacrifice an artifact or goblin when you cast it. So that's just great removal right there. Thallid Omnivore is probably the best black common creature. This card is just very, very good in a Saproling deck and pretty good in other decks. It's just incredibly hard to block this at any point because you can make your opponent's creatures trade for your weakest creatures. If they block this with a 4/4, you're making that 4/4 trade for like a 1/1 Saproling token or whatever your weakest creature on board is. Even if they block it with a 5/5, you're then trading your Thallid Omnivore and like a 1/1 for that. So I think Thallid Omnivore is just a very, very good, very powerful card. Now we have Soul Salvage if we want to completely stick to black and stay super open here to where we can be black and whatever other color is showing up. Soul Salvage is definitely a really nice card. It's very good value in the late game. 3 mana, return any 2 creatures from your grave to your hand. It's especially good if you get any bomb kinds of creatures, because then if your opponent does deal with your crazy bomb rare that you've got, you can just bring it right back from the grave and cast it again later. So that's definitely worth considering. There's Fiery Intervention, which is decent removal in red, which is very easy to splash as well because it only costs that 1 red. But there's also Untamed Kavu. I think this creature is just very, very strong. It's 2 mana for a 2/2 Vigilance Trample, or you can kick her for 3 mana, so that it's 5 mana total for a 5/5 Vigilance Trample. I think this is very strong, and green-black is a color combination I really want to be in, especially with Thallid Omnivore, because I think the Saproling decks can be quite powerful. Danitha Capuchin would be fine for a black-white deck, which is worth considering as well. With Knight of Malice is the kind of card that would lead us into black-white, because even if we control a white permanent, Knight of Malice gets +1 power. I am going to move more into the green-black here, though, with the Untamed Kavu pick. May have been a bit of a mistake here, because I think Call the Cavalry would have been a really nice follow-up to Danitha Capuchin. Then we go into a white-black knight deck here, but Fungal Infection is a totally fine follow-up to go into green-black Saprolings and Thallids and all that instead. I think these are pretty on par. Fungal Infection can just lead to some really, really good early-game trades. Just giving that -1/-1 and spitting out a token, sometimes you can really blow out your opponent with that. Now we have Corrosive Ooze in green, just a decent filler card. Same with Windgrace Acolyte, a decent late game filler card. This is flying, so it gives you a way to get through board stalls. There's also the Soul Salvage, which is a pretty decent card as we talked about before. Fiery Intervention and Gideon's Reproach are both decent removal that's not hard to splash. I think, you know, with Knight of Malice and Untamed Kavu, I already have two 2-drops, both of which are premier 2-drops. They're both really, really good, so I think I'm going to take something other than Corrosive Ooze in this pack. I'm not at that point where I need to take a filler 2-drop. I think it's between Soul Salvage and Windgrace Acolyte for me. I'm going to pick up the Soul Salvage, actually. With Thallid Omnivore, I already have a little bit of sacrificing going on here, and in green-black, I'm probably going to have a lot of it, so going to be a lot of stuff to bring back from the graveyard, most likely. This pack's going to be a very easy Baloth Gorger. It's a 4-mana 4/4, or if you draw this in the late game, you get to cast it as an 8-mana 7/7. I really like the kicker cards for that reason. They are definitely, most of them are pretty good on curve. Just play this as a 4-mana 4/4, and you're always happy with it. And then if you top deck this in the late game, when you already have like 10 lands out or something, it actually leaves as big of an impact as it should at that point in the game too, which is very nice. So definitely going to pick up that Baloth Gorger out of that pack. Now we can take another Fungal Infection. Goes well with our green-black Saprolings, a theme that we may be trying to go for with our Thallid Omnivore in our first Fungal Infection. The only other card I'd really take here is Corrosive Ooze. Chainer's Torment's just a little weird and a little slow for me. It's really easy to get blown out with this card, because you could spend this enchantment to just drain your opponent for 4 life off of the first 2 abilities, and then when you get that Nightmare token, you have to pay a bunch of life into it. So if you get that Nightmare token and then your opponent just bounces it with a blink of an eye, that's the worst feeling in the universe, and I feel like that happens to me all the time, so I tend to just avoid the Chainer's Torment, and this is definitely going to be a wild onslaught in this pack. Now, Baloth Gorger is really nice. I think that's worth mentioning, it's worth considering. The card is very good. I would like another Baloth Gorger, but Wild Onslaught can be so good with Saproling producing cards, like the 2-mana make 2 Saplings thing with Slimefoot, anything like that. If you have a ton of creatures out, Wild Onslaught is very easily going to be a big impact card, even if you don't kick it. And if you do kick it, putting 2 +1/+1 counters on all your creatures at instant speed is just a massive blowout most of the time. Now I will take a Corrosive Ooze. I think Short Sword could be okay in here. When you have a bunch of 1/1 tokens, turning them into 2/2s can get them to trade up into actually relevant creatures. So Short Sword is not irrelevant here. Just not a massive fan of equipment most of the time. This might be a deck for them, though. I don't know. I'm just going to pick up that Corrosive Ooze, which is pretty on flavor, because I just said I'm not a huge fan of equipment, and Corrosive Ooze does blow up your opponent's equipment. So that's pretty on flavor here. Not really going to play any of these cards. Navigator's Compass is if you're desperately needing mana fixing. Sparring Construct's just pretty mediocre. Cabal of Angel as well. Or Cabal Paladin as well is pretty mediocre. I guess I'll just take the Paladin for now, and I'm unlikely to run it. Definitely not going to run Aether Glider. I'd run this card if I have a historic theme, or if I'm really trying to get in there with some flyers, but it's a 3-mana 2/1 flyer, and it can't even block, so it's below the curve in many ways. You really want to be getting value out of this being an artifact creature for that to be important. I'm going to pick up the Guy's Blessing just because it's in our colors, but I'm probably not going to play it. Now nothing's in our colors, and I'm not really going to play any of these. Maybe I would play a dub if I end up in Black-White Knights somehow, but I think we're pretty far from that already. I can actually run a Drudge Sentinel as a filler card here because I don't have anything at 3 mana yet, so that's fine. And let's see what we have in this pack. So pretty nice commons for our deck, but nothing in the uncommon or rare slot. That is all off color. But Saproling Migration and Yavimaya Sapherd are both great for the Saproling theme. They go great with Wild Onslaught, and they go great with Thallid Omnivore. I think I'm going to start with Yavimaya Sapherd just to fill out our 3-drops, because this card is quite good. I really do want Saproling Migrations as well, though. I think they're both very good cards. This is 2 mana for 2 1/1 Saprolings, or you can kick it for 6 mana total to get 4 1/1 Saprolings. So this can just make a lot of Saprolings on the board, but I do like the Sapherd definitely better at its face value. The fact that the Migration has kicker, though, is very nice. Now we have Grow from the Ashes, which would make it so we can very easily splash a third color, which is what's really nice with Grow from the Ashes. You could also just use this to ramp up, grab one forest or swamp or whatever. So I think this card's fine. Whisper can be good in a Saproling deck as well. If you have enough token producers, this can start bringing back stuff like Baloth Gorger by sacrificing 2 1/1 Saprolings. So that can be really nice. We could take a third Fungal Infection, and we could take a Blackblade Reforged. Blackblade Reforged, you do really want a legendary creature for this. With no legendary creatures, 7 mana to equip is a lot, but at that point you will have at least 7 lands out, so that is a pretty big finisher. I guess, we can try the Blackblade out. It's a lot of mana, so we have to consider this as just like a late game finisher, but with all the tokens we're going to have in this deck, just turning a 1/1 Saproling into an 8/8, and then whenever that dies, turning the next one into an 8/8, it's a pretty big impact even for the 7 mana equip cost instead of the 3 mana equip cost. So I don't think we need the legendary creatures to go with this just by having all these tokens. So the best picks here would be a Woodland Cemetery to help fix our mana, or a Fungal Infection, I would say. I already talked my piece on Chainer's Torment. It just feels so bad if they have a single removal spell to deal with that horror that you put so much time and effort into producing. Llanowar Scout's just fine, and we already have some pretty good 2-drops. And then Yargle's fun, but the only thing we really have that cares about Historic is the Blackblade, in which case we already have 5 mana for Yargle, so we'd only be 2 away from the Blackblade in the first place. I think I will take the Woodland Cemetery. That'll be a rare for my collection, so I'll either get gems out of it or the rare for my collection, plus it's relevant in our deck, so that's why I'm taking Woodland Cemetery over another Fungal Infection there. Now I'll just take a Gift of Growth. Not seeing a lot in green-black in this pack. Do have a Corrosive Ooze here, which is not bad. We could also take a Feral Abomination, but I much prefer to have decks with lower curves and then just good kicker cards like Baloth Gorger and Wild Onslaught to have as our 7 and 8 drops, rather than having cards that are strictly cards that you play on turn 7 and 8. So preferably I can just get more kicker cards as my late game curve instead of that kind of stuff. Jaya's Immolating Fire is pretty crazy. It is a legendary sorcery, so you can only cast it if you control a legendary permanent, but X mana to 3 targets is pretty brutal. Anyways, I'm not going to play it. I did not pick up the Grow from the Ashes, so I'm not able to really splash a double red card, and again, I don't have any legendary cards yet, so we're just taking another Gift of Growth. It's another good pump spell. Now we have an Ancient Animus, get another removal spell into this deck. We could also take a Soul Salvage. Not bad either. Soul Salvage or Ancient Animus is actually somewhat close here, I think, but I will take Ancient Animus. Stronghold Confessor or Dark Bargain. I do think I have a lot going on at 4 right now. I can take Stronghold Confessor, and it's a 1-drop or a 4-drop, whichever I need. I feel like you never want to play this as a 1-mana 3/3, though. It's just a 4-mana 3/3 menace, which is okay. So I guess these are both 4-drops at that point. Still probably going to take the Stronghold Confessor. And now we did get a Soul Salvage. I'm fine with that. Bunch of off-color cards. It does seem like we're getting cut in this pack, but in our final pack, as you can see, this pack, it's going this way. But in our final pack, it's going to be going the opposite way, so I should be getting plenty of green and black in the last pack, based on how heavily it's been cut in this pack, via the people passing to me, and then me myself taking green and black cards. I think in the last pack we should get our payoffs, our decent cards to finish out this deck. Hopefully we can open up a Slimefoot in our pack. Just pack 3, pick one. That would be perfect. That would really put this deck together. But even without that, we could have a decent deck. Fungal Plots and Yavimaya Sapherd are the relevant opening cards out of this pack. I think both are quite good. Fungal Plots is 2 mana. You can pay 2 and exile a creature from your graveyard to create a 1/1 green sapling, and then you can sacrifice 2 saplings to gain 2 life and draw a card. Can be pretty good. We do already have double Soul Salvage, though, so we're already trying to get value out of our graveyard creatures by just bringing them back to our hand. So I think because of that, that is going to push Yavimaya Sapherd to be the pick for me personally a little bit more than the Fungal Plots. But I do think Fungal Plots is quite good as well. I'm going to pick up the Sapherd here, though. Ooh. Wow, yeah, this is the payoff pack here. So we have Spore Crown Thallid to give all our saplings and funguses +1/+1. I think Spore Crown Thallid into Yavimaya Sapherd is just such a brutal curve that I'm probably going to pick that here. I don't know if that's the right pick because there's other incredibly powerful cards here. There's another Wild Onslaught, which would be fantastic, and a Vicious Offering, which is really good removal. 2 mana for -2/-2, or if you kick her by sacrificing a creature, that creature gets a -5/-5 instead. So that can kill almost anything. So really good cards here. I'm going to roll with the Spore Crown Thallid here just for that huge potential turn 2 into turn 3 play. Could be really nice. We do already have one Ancient Animus, but we could use another if we really want to. I think I'd rather take a Spore Crown, a Death Bloom Thallid here. One of the better 3-drops for the Saplings decks, actually probably tied with the Yavimaya Sapherd. Both of them are just really good. 3 mana for a 3/2, and when you trade this off for something, you get another Sapling out of it when it dies. So now I can definitely cut that Drudge Sentinel. Alright, so I was definitely right. This last pack is super paying off. We're definitely going to take a Thallid Omnivore here. As I said before, just really hard to block this creature ever. It's a really good finisher in these Saproling decks, because it can always poke through for that damage. When you've got enough creatures out, it just becomes so massive. We have a Krosan Druid or a Caligo Skin Witch in our color. That's basically it. I'm going to take the Skin Witch over the Druid. I think this just has a much more powerful kicker effect. If you can kick this on turn 6 when your opponent only has 2 or 3 cards in hand, this is just really powerful. Even if your opponent only has 1 card in hand, it's probably a card they've been holding on to all game, where that is pretty powerful. I'm definitely going to take Mammoth Spider here. I don't have any defense against flyers, really, outside of my just regular removal, and I would like to get some. Mammoth Spider is one of the best ones, because the flyers in this format, like the big flyers, tend to be like, at common, Cloud Raider Sphinx is a 3/4 flyer, Academy Drake is a 4/4 flyer at biggest, stuff that Mammoth Spider can block. The only flyers we have to worry about that Mammoth Spider couldn't deal with would be like rares and mythics anyway. So I do like Mammoth Spider a lot. It's very nice defensively. This pack does not really have anything. We could take another Gift of Growth and just have like 1,000,000 copies of that card, but I'm going to throw that one directly into the sideboard. I'm not going to play a Gaia's Protector in this deck, so I'm just going to throw a Joda into the sideboard. It will be my 5th copy of Joda, so that's just free gems. Just get 20 gems out of that pick. Now we'll take a Llanowar Envoy. I don't know how likely I am to play that. I would say probably not. I'm not really trying to splash into any 3rd color, so I don't need the mana fixing ability. So this is just a 3-mana 3/2 with basically no abilities in my deck, and I already have like a 3-mana 3/2 with abilities. That's just pretty below the curve. Power and toughness for the cost. And we did wheel the Wild Onslaught. That's fantastic. Easy last pick for this pack. I'm assuming that'll be the last pick that's relevant to our deck, but we'll see. If we wheeled Wild Onslaught, we could wheel other just decently relevant cards. I mean, yeah, like Gift of Growth is kind of whatever. It's not completely irrelevant, so that's cool. Nice to get that this late. Okay, I think the rest of these are pretty irrelevant. For sure. So we've got 27 cards in here, one of which is the land, so we have 26 non-land cards. You definitely want 23 non-lands and 17 lands. That is the arena standard for limited decks. That is what it kind of suggests onto you, and I think it is pretty correct in the vast majority of cases. So, we just got to cut 3 cards out of this deck, and it's important to always treat your cards on your curve as when they're going to be relevant. So while Stronghold Confessor is a 1-mana card, I never want to play this as a 1-mana 1/1 menace, because there's very little point in that. If I'm running this in my deck, I want to play this as a 4-mana card. So for my curve, I want to put that at the 4-drop slot. And then usually what I see a lot of people doing that I think is pretty smart to do is to split up your spells and your creatures on your curve, because a lot of the time, definitely with spells like Soul Salvage, you're not actually casting Soul Salvage at turn 3 either. You're going to cast that in the very late game. So when you're trying to see your curve, like when you're actually casting your cards so that you're actually playing something every turn of the game, make sure Soul Salvage is also not at 3 mana and stuff like that. Fungal Infection, we could actually play this like turn 2, turn 3. That is probably going to be an early game play most of the time. But I'm just going to split up the spells regardless, because the creatures are cards you just always want to play at whatever mana cost they're at, really. And Black Blade, because we don't have any legendary creatures in this deck, we need to treat this as a 7-mana card, because it's not going to do anything until we have the 7 mana to equip it. So, very high on the curve there. So we're going to cut 3 cards. I really like most of our creatures. I think Llanowar Envoy is pretty mediocre. Cabal Paladin as well. We don't have any historic cards to trigger, so it's a 4-mana 4/2 with no abilities. I suppose we have the one Black Blade that would trigger the life loss ability, or the damage ability. That's pretty much it. If I want to keep all these creatures in, I only have to cut one more card, so I could just cut a single Gift of Growth, and then we've got a deck at the ready. I think that's what I'll probably do. I think cut one Gift of Growth, and then we've got a deck. Alright, so let's pick a cool sleeve. I like the Sword of Feast and Famine sleeve here. Definitely green-black, and now I want to fix my lands because it's got this Liliana Swamp from Jumpstart auto-picked. I can't wait until they give us a way to favorite our lands, so that doesn't happen. Alright, take all that out. Now we've got a 40-card deck, and I'm going to turn off the card style on Deathbloom Thallid so that our deck is uniform. Because that's what I like to do. And now we've got our green-black Fungi deck for our Dominaria Premier Draft here. We'll see how well it does. The goal in Premier Drafts for me is to go at least 4-3. At 4-3, you get 1,400 gems and 3 packs out of it. So then you've paid 100 gems to get 3 packs that you've drafted out of and 3 extra packs. So if you have every rare and mythic in the set, that is enough to give you the 1,500 gems that you put in right back out of it, because out of those 3 packs, you're guaranteed 3 rares. That would be 60 gems total. So if you drafted 0 rares in the whole draft, you'd get 1,460 gems, which is 40 gems away from 1,500. So basically, you made it. Often you will have drafted at least 2 rares. So if you do have every card in the set, at 4 wins, you're getting value. You're at your 1,500 gems that you paid in for it. And if you don't have every card in the set, you're getting even more value, because then you're basically paying 100 gems for 6 packs that you're just adding to your collection. So 4 wins is where it really shines. You don't want to go that 3-3 average, because then you are losing a bit. So let's hope for the best here. Just go 4-3. That would be fantastic. If I draw a Yavimaya Sapherd next turn, this hand is great, because Spore Crown into Yavimaya Sapherd is the dream curve. They may just kill my Spore Crown Thallid right now. They do. But they cast down. I do have Soul Salvage for the late game, though, which is nice. This hand is pretty awkward without that creature. With them just using 1 removal spell, the hand falls apart a little bit. There's the Yavimaya Sapherd, too. Kind of sad. Could have had just 1 turn off from the Dream Curve. We could have turned 2 Spore Crown Thallid, turn 4 Sapherded. Oh my god, and another Sapherd? I do have enough mana to Soul Salvage Spore Crown Thallid and then immediately recast it. So if they're still stuck on mana next turn, which they are stuck on 3 mana right now, I may just do that. There's a Yavimaya Sapherd of their own. I think with a Sapherd of their own, I'm definitely going to do that. I do have the mana to kick a Skin Witch now, get them to discard 2 of their cards. If they trade with one of my Sapherds, I can bring that back with a Soul Salvage as well. Okay, maybe I don't actually want to just bring back my Fungi. Okay, yes, because I was going to say, because that is so good if they just trade. If they just trade, that's actually fantastic, because now I just bring both back. Drop Sapherd. Next turn, I'm obviously dropping Spore Crown Thallid, and then I have a massive field. And our opponent is going to scoop them up. They got very stuck on mana there at 3 lands. Pretty unfortunate for them. But that will be our first win for us. So at least one side of the table is getting some value there. Feels bad for the opponent, though. They did keep a 3-lander, so they didn't even keep a greedy hand or anything. It just got absolutely punished by the shuffler there. Alright, heading into our next round. See, this is a pretty awkward hand. This is keeping a 2-lander, so if we lost this one due to mana issues, that would be rough, but I think it would be on us for sure. I might just keep this anyway, though, because like I go Corrosive Ooze into Corrosive Ooze, and then I have a Soul Salvage as soon as I hit 1 more land. I just bring back both oozes. I have a fungal infection to deal with an early creature. I could even make, like if they block with a 2/2 against my Corrosive Ooze, I could really get them there. I'm going to keep this. It's definitely a risky keep mana-wise, but I like it outside of that. And we did immediately draw our third land, so that makes me pretty confident that this is a good hand from this point on, especially drawing the fourth land with that Woodland Cemetery as well. This is just a pretty great hand now. We are against blue and red. Blue-red can be some very aggressive Wizards decks. Could be a Syncopate here. Exile this unless I pay 2. Or Wizard's Retort works as well. That just straight up counter it. So definitely blue-red, most likely Wizards after playing a Wizard's Retort. Really slow start for a Wizard deck though, if that is what they are on. Alright, we're just going to take the 2 from Warcry Phoenix. Not really worth making that a 1/1. Drop down a Baloth Gorger, so we can keep smacking in. Opponent has 5 mana up. We've got some instants up. We've got Wild Onslaught and Gift of Growth, so I think we just send in, see if they do anything here. If they don't do anything, we probably just drop Yavimaya Sapherd, because then Wild Onslaught gets even bigger. With a blink of an eye, I think we're likely to just recast the Baloth Gorger, but that's fine. Definitely resolves. They get to draw a card off that, put Gorger in our hand. Guess who's back? Could have alternatively chosen to cast Yavimaya Sapherd there to spread out my creatures so Wild Onslaught would be bigger, and then just try to cast Wild Onslaught sooner. Ooh, now I think I'm going to go Thallid Omnivore into Sapherd next turn. This definitely looks like it's going to be just one Warcry Phoenix versus all of our plays, just trying to use a bunch of removal to slow us down enough to kill us with the Phoenix. If Thallid Omnivore survives just one turn here, that should put the pressure in our favor. A pretty massive amount, because it also gains us life from sacrificing Saproling. So there is an Academy Journey Mage, which is pretty irritating. Bounce the Omnivore back into our hand. So we've got to recast it again. They're just really slowing us down here. Well, we'll just send in first. No reason to wait till post-combat here. If they don't block, we'll have several creatures that can block the Journey Mage. Alright. If they don't block, I think I actually just Sapherd and save up a Gift of Growth or a Fungal Infection. So now they can't really attack with that Journey Mage. Going down to 10 in the sky. Opponent's thinking they have 8 mana and 2 cards in hand, so there are a lot of different things that this could be. Could be Haphazard Bombardment. I love that card, probably more than I should. So try to just block with a 1/1 and Fungal Infection, because that'll be a pretty good trade. They might have a Run Amok or something. Wouldn't be the worst for me, because I'll just lose a 1/1 out of that. I'll still get another 1/1 token out of Fungal Infection. Take a little bit of damage. This may be a counterspell or something. Let's see what this is. Blink of an Eye, just bounce my 1/1. Okay, well I still stop all the damage, get a replacement to 1/1 out of here. They're at 10 life, so 4/5 damage here. Do have Wild Onslaught, I could make it 8. I can make it 10 with Gift of Growth. So this might be risky, but I'm going to try to just go all in for lethal here. It's not stopping, so they might not have an answer for anything. No answers, so that is the full 10 lethal. Out of nowhere, Wild Onslaught plus Gift of Growth coming in hot for that lethal swing with just the 3 creatures too. So that was really nice. Some powerful green instants there. 2 wins and no losses for our black-green sapling deck, where the box art is just a Knight of Malice, because I didn't change the deck art. If you don't change your deck art in your drafts, it'll just go with whatever you first picked, which is kind of funny sometimes. This is a definite keep. I get to turn 2 Spore Crown Thallid, turn 3 Deathbloom Thallid, so Deathbloom Thallid will come out as a 4/3 if they don't kill my Spore Crown. And then Untamed Kavu can come out on turn 5 as a 5/5 if I get the mana for it, and if I don't, I can just play a Knight of Malice in the meantime. Some very powerful plays in this hand for the early game. I like it a lot. Now we get a Corrosive Ooze as well. Unfortunately, an ooze is not a fungus or a sapperling, so the ooze will not get any bigger. Here is the 4/3 Deathbloom Thallid. That is absolutely going to be coming in. Playing against a red-green kicker deck with a Fight with Fire on our Spore Crown Thallid. Now we have a Fungal Infection here to really blow them out if they block. Beautiful. We get to keep Deathbloom Thallid and get a 1/1 Sapperling and drop down a Corrosive Ooze this turn. And there's a Gitu Journey Mage. So the Journey Mage will trade with Deathbloom Thallid if they want it to. Looks like they do. Put them down to 18, get another Sapperling out here, and we'll drop a Corrosive Ooze and a Knight of Malice. Only card left to play is Untamed Kavu, but I'd prefer to have the 5 mana to kick that as a 5/5 Vigilance Trample. They do have the Elfheim Druid, which can tap for 2 mana for kicker abilities, so any kicker spells they have in the future could be absolutely huge, but they're under a lot of pressure now, especially with a Thallid Omnivore now. This thing can attack. I have 4 mana to pump into it, so it can attack as an 11/11. That could kill them all by itself if I sacrifice the rest of my field into it. With a kicked Sapperling Migration, that is going to be a lot of blockers to kind of survive here, but I do have Soul Salvage now. I could even return... Ooh, maybe I should have just Soul Salvaged first, but I don't have the mana to Soul Salvage and cast something anyway. But yeah, Soul Salvage to bring back Spore Crown Thallid and Deathbloom should be pretty good. I think I just attack... I actually attack with everybody. Like, trading Sapperlings here is not bad. Okay. So, we kill every Sapperling here. And since I only have 3 mana anyway, I may as well gain the life off of that Sapperling. Kill every Sapperling, they're only left with their 0/2. And now I get to Soul Salvage for Spore Crown and Deathbloom. Thorn Elemental, so they have 2 blockers now. And I have a Gift of Growth as well. If I just attack with everybody, block Thallid Omnivore with Thorn Elemental, they block there, take 2. I think I just attack and see what happens. I could play Deathbloom Thallid first. That would give me the best creature to sacrifice for Thallid Omnivore. Okay, so they're just going to do it like this. Well, then I will Gift of Growth Thallid Omnivore to trade there. And they're down to 3 now, 2 cards in hand. They do have a Memorial to Unity, which they can sacrifice to grab a creature from the top 5 of their deck. Pretty nice land. These utility lands are quite good. And they drew into a Fiery Intervention, which will kill one of my creatures, but they're at 3 life now. I am actually just going to play Untamed Kavu unkicked here, just to spread out my threats. Been wanting to kick this all game, but just have not drawn that 5th mana, so spread out the board we will. They're down to 1 life now. And I have 3 attackers, so they need to play 2 more blockers or removal spells, or any combination of the 2. And they start off with a Howler from the Memorial to Unity, but it won't be enough. No other draws for the turn, just a basic land. So they've got 2 blockers against 3 attackers, and we'll crack in for 2 there. Alright, so that's, I believe, 3 wins and 0 losses for Golgari here. 1,000 gems and 2 packs. I just need 1 more win in these next 3 rounds to get to the value. Really want to go at least 4 and 3, so let's just get our 1 more win here, at the very least, out of this event. And I'll be happy. This hand's very risky. It really needs 1 more mana, but it does have Knight of Malice and Fungal Infection in the early game. Both of these are really good, and they're completely castable off of this hand. It's pretty risky. I might get punished, but I would certainly hope not. Please, universe. This hand is very, very good with 1 more land, and we hit it. Always rewarded today. Feels pretty nice. Opponent starts with a Swamp and a Plains. So they're on black-white. Black-white could be themed around legendary cards, could be themed around knights. There are multiple different options there. There are kind of multiple different options for most color schemes. I think I'll start with a Deathbloom Thallid over a Sap Herd here. They start with a Mesa Unicorn. Just send into that because we're fine trading. Alright. I can say if they offer the trade there, we can Fungal Infection and make the trade even worse for them. And we can still do that on blocks. Thanks to the Woodland Cemetery as our 4th mana. This Woodland Cemetery's been putting in a lot of work with this deck. It's been quite nice. Baird is very nice against our deck, because now we have to pay mana to attack, which is quite unfortunate. With as many creatures as we have that we'll want to be attacking with, that just makes it very hard to attack with anything, really. Don't have anything to deal with Baird. Guess I could just send in with the Deathbloom Thallid. I could possibly deal with Baird with a Fungal Infection. And if they don't block, that's fine too. They're debating it here. We'll see what happens. Go for the Mesa Unicorn. I will go ahead and win that combat with a Fungal Infection. Pass the turn. If they attack with Baird, I can triple block, and then I trade just my Sap Herd for Baird, or my 1/1s for Baird. Ariel is really what I don't want to see. And that is the biggest problem with my deck, is the lack of removal. I really just have these Fungal Infections. So that is where I could start getting my losses here for sure, is when I see cards like Ariel and I just don't have an answer. I don't really agree with this attack. I guess maybe they have a Fungal Infection in hand. If they have a Fungal Infection, this makes a lot of sense, but if not, I'm not sure what this is about. They do. Okay. Fungal Infection combat. Sure. I could reverse Fungal Infection them, but then I can't Fungal Infection Ariel, and Ariel is the biggest problem. So I guess I just let him kill my 1/1s. Well, I can cast Untamed Kavu as a 5/5. I do have Soul Salvage at the ready. Baird's ability is really screwing with me here, because I would love to be able to just attack in with the Stallid to try to Fungal Infection Ariel. If I tap Untamed Kavu, I can't Fungal Infection either, but then they're probably not attacking with Ariel anyway. Guess I'll just cast Untamed Kavu and pass. There's an Ugaros, the empty one, as well. Another really big problem I'm gonna need my Mammoth Spider to deal with. It's gonna start discarding a card for me every turn. I think this is just really not the matchup for my deck. I think this is a definite loss, but I'll try my best here. I'm just not gonna have any solutions to these cards anytime soon. I can bring back a Knight of Malice. Doesn't do a lot, so Soul Salvage doesn't do much. Calico Skin Witch, I'm 1 mana off from kicking it, so it doesn't really do anything on this board. I suppose I'm attacking with Untamed Kavu. And I'm just passing. They're down to 13. So we're getting somewhere. In terms of life totals, at least. Which definitely does not mean everything. Doesn't mean a whole lot either. Alright, so Urgros is coming in. I have to discard a card at random too. So that could even just hit my fungal infection. That would be bad. Let's see. Whatever it is, it's going to be bad for me. Hits my Skin Witch, so I don't get to have them discard next turn. If I draw a basic land next turn. That play has been shut off. Jousting Lance. 2 mana to play, 3 mana to equip. It gives +2/+0 and first strike during your turn. Pretty strong. So I have a Baloth Gorger, which I can just play as a 4/4, or else it's going to get discarded. Send in with the Untamed Kavu as usual. Does have Trample, which is nice. That means they can't infinitely chump block it with Ariel's Knight tokens. They're just going to take the 5. So put them down to 8, and I'll just drop a Baloth Gorger. Just going to try to make enough power on this board that I might be able to crack through. Because, yeah, I mean, they're down to 8 now. Ariel makes it so they're pretty safe on token production, though, so they can block this Baloth Gorger forever. Here comes the 2/2 Knight token. Get one of those every turn. Calico Skin Witch to get me to discard the last 2 cards. Wouldn't really matter. I was about to discard one anyway off Urgros, but now they get to draw a card off the Urgros, so they're just getting massive value there. I was already playing under the assumption that I wouldn't have whichever one I wanted to cast, and now that's very true. I just don't have either one. Okay. They don't have the mana to make another Knight token, so I guess I am attacking with both of these. Use double green to threaten any kind of fungal infection style plays. See how they block here. I expect just some chump blocks. I think they're very safe to just chump block for a while. Oh, they're going to let me kill Baird. Fine with that. I suppose I don't really have the cards to use the mana anymore anyway. I'm going to hold this forest in my hand just so they don't get to draw another card here. I would rather them make me discard this forest than draw a random card off the top, because they could draw into a removal spell like Eviscerate. Looks like they already got the Eviscerate, which is unfortunate. But yeah, the Untamed Kavu really did a lot more than I thought it would this game. Just really let it keep getting in there. Well, I am on a 3-turn clock in the sky, so I need to stop all this ground damage. So then I'll just be on a 2-turn clock if I take that. Spore Crown Thallid does not do anything for me. If I had any kind of magical way to make one of my creatures unblockable till end of turn, I could hit them for 0 with the Yavimaya Sapherd, or hit them down to 0. That would be spicy, but these legends are just going to take over the game here. Just unfortunate I did not end up with any eviscerates or anything. And this is where, like, taking Spore Crown Thallid over the 2 mana -2/-2 or -5/-5 removal spell, the Vicious Offering, may have got us a bit here. That definitely cost us this game. But I think overall the Thallid has won us other games. At least, I mean, it's been good every time I played it, but yeah, I think a Vicious Offering would have definitely been better this game, but we didn't draw the Thallid until really late in the game anyway, so if you literally just swapped that card for Vicious Offering, we wouldn't have drawn Vicious Offering till late in the game anyway. Either way. I don't know, fortunate loss, but we've got 2 losses to go before we're kicked out. I only need to get 1 more win to be happy with this run. Come on, world. 1 more win. I believe in our deck. I believe our deck can do things if we can get on the ground running. If we don't run up against a bomb. The problem is, Dominaria is a pretty bomb-heavy format. You gotta be prepared with the removal, and our deck is just not on that front. We're very much just trying to outrace them, playing anything like a Muldrotha, or a Varix Bladewing, or Lyra, or anything like that. Alright, definite keep. Spore Crown into Death Bloom again. It's a very nice start. We do have a Wild Onslaught in the late game, especially if I can get the kicker mana for that. That could be very powerful. Opponent is on red. They may just Shiv and fire Spore Crown immediately. Tends to be the usual play. I think it's still worth just dropping that out first, because the upside of potentially getting that value to the +1/+1 would be nice. I suppose some people are very removal happy, so we might have been able to get them to just Shiv and fire Corrosive Ooze, but who knows. I will definitely offer the trade Deathbloom Thallid into Davenant Trapper, because this card's quite powerful. 3/2, whenever they cast a historic spell, they tap a creature that we control. One of the best aggressive white cards in this format. It makes blocking almost impossible, because they're likely to play a historic spell at least once every other turn. Just shut down your best blocker. There's a Sergeant at Arms coming in. And just passing turn. A lot of lands here. 4, 5, 6, 7. We're 1 mana away from Wild Onslaught in hand. If I put all this mana out on the field, I'll only need to draw 1 more. Fortunately, though, we really need to stop drawing lands if they play any more threats, like a Serra Angel. Okay. There's another land. 6 mana, so we have the mana for Wild Onslaught. If I just play 2 more lands here, and I have my 2 more lands, I could put 2 counters on both my creatures, but that's not going to help against the Serra Angel. I need something to be able to crack through their defenses here, and a Wild Onslaught for 1 just doesn't really do that. I end up with a 3/3, and my Deathbloom Thallid will end up as a 4/3 that'll just trade with the Trapper. Serra Angel just eats my 3/3. Well, I'm on an incredibly fast clock now. Dead in 3 turns to the Serra Angel. Flame of Keld coming out. They're going to discard their hand and then draw 2 next turn, which means they'll draw 3 total that turn, and we've just hit our 9th land. Definitely have enough lands now. 1 mana from the Wild Onslaught. Just got to play one of these swamps, then we have enough mana to kick everything in our deck. Opponent has 3 cards in hand with Serra Angel as a 6/4 Flying Vigilance First Strike attacker here. I feel like we are just going to lose this one with a Frenzied Rage as well to make the Sergeant at Arms a 4/4 Menace. This is super sad because I think I actually have to just Wild Onslaught for 1 here. We're 1 mana away from kicking it. We have the mana in hand, but gonna have to just put the 1 counter on these. Oh, they got a Fervent Strike. Fervent Strike gives it +1 in First Strike. That's gonna be 5 First Striking power. I give Wild Onslaught. They kill my Corrosive Ooze before it deals any damage. My Deathbloom Thallid would survive at least. If I Onslaught, I get to keep a Thallid on board, I guess. But then I still don't have 2 blockers for the Menace anyway. And then I die next turn regardless. It's pretty brutal. I guess I do Wild Onslaught here. Just save Deathbloom Thallid. Oh, I guess it does do enough damage to it. Oh, because it didn't add to the toughness, it just gave +1 power. Okay. Well, these draws are humorous, to say the least. There's Black Blade Reforged with exactly 1 mana less than I would need to equip it. If I did equip it in attack, I would just lose right now, though. Because then I wouldn't have a blocker for the Trapper. I'd go to 0. And another land. Really, really unfortunate draws this game. I feel like even if we drew well, we were pretty likely to lose to a Jousting Lanced Serra Angel, because that is just very powerful. But our draws really did not help this game. Just a ton of lands very quickly. I mean, drawing into that Black Blade there, where it forced them to take 10 or lose the Serra Angel, might have been an actual threat if I was actually, like, playing creatures on the board and actively getting into the game earlier. Like, literally, if I had just had a Fungal Infection, I would be able to attack into that Serra Angel freely, because if they ever blocked with it, I could just -1/-1 and eat it. I guess maybe I should have been trying to do that with the Wild Onslaught, but I feel like they just block with the Davenant Trapper there. So I guess even a Fungal Infection wouldn't have really helped, because then that'd be still a situation where they block with the Davenant Trapper. Just would have had to draw very well, and I drew kind of the opposite of that. So that's a definite mulligan here, and I'll keep this one. I think I'll ditch the Soul Salvage. We've got 2 Corrosive Oozes into a Mammoth Spider in the late game as our start of this game. Opponent is on green, red, and black. Could be splashing for a Dairy Gas, but could also just be like green-red splashing for Eviscerate or something. There's a Juggernaut, which is kind of scary. We'll send in for 5. Grand Warlord Rada as well, so whenever it attacks, they get a bunch of mana. So they have a pump spell that's pretty bad for me, but if they don't, being able to trade my Corrosive Oozes for the Rada would be pretty nice. The Corrosive Oozes aren't very valuable on their own, so even if they pump spell here, I think that's okay. The Oozes weren't going to help me really against these any other way. Ooh, Ancient Animus. It's about as bad as it could have been, because that's a permanent +1/+1 to Grand Warlord Rada. Definitely playing a Mammoth Spider now. I can block Rada with that and just take 5. Looks like that gets fought with fire. We're taking 9 here. And a Mending of Dominaria. It's going to draw them a creature card back to their hand this turn, draw them a creature card back to their hand next turn, and then return all of the lands from their grave to their hand the turn after that. I can Skin Witch and make them discard all that, but then I'm taking 4 and going to 2. Very likely to lose this game now. Regardless, now they have a Kazarov in hand too. My opponent just has all the bombs. Oh my god. So we're just going to get destroyed this game. Well, at the start I felt like this may have been a game that we also just lost due to the way that we drafted, where we weren't drafting removal super highly. We saw removal very rarely. But yeah, we should have been picking it super highly with how rarely we saw it. But I feel like even with all the removal that we saw, we were definitely losing this game. This is just triple bomb destruction with a fight with fire to slow me down. I guess I can soul salvage an ooze. I can have blockers for the ground creatures, but then I will still die to Kazarov, but that's as good as I can do, so I guess I'll do that. Chump block the ground creatures, but that is going to end this draft, unfortunately, at 3 wins and 3 losses. Feels pretty terrible every time you 3-win into 3 losses, when you're just so close to actually getting the perfect value 4-3 run, the blessed, the golden. Most people have their wishes for the 7-0 runs. I'm just over here trying to hit those 4-3s. Those are the runs I believe in. I like how they had another removal spell there. Oh wait, no, they just had Kazarov's ability. I forgot Kazarov is like extra good. They did not even let me block both of the ground creatures. Well, absolute destruction to end this draft. That was a really yin and yang draft there. We got all of the best that our deck can do out in the first 3 rounds, and then all of the worst in the last 3, where we just did not have enough interaction for powerful plays from our opponents, which is something you really need to look out for in this format. As I said before, a format where there is a lot of good common removal, but it is also very splashable, so you do have to pick it highly and actively look for it. So, because I didn't do that, I kind of got destroyed by multiple bombs at the end, so bit of a learning day there. But not bad at all for one of my first drafts back in the format. 3 and 3, perfectly even. Not the worst ever, would have loved to hit 4-3 instead, but I'll take what I can get. Grab these extra 2 Dominaria packs. At the end of the video here, I would like to again thank Wizards of the Coast for sponsoring this week's videos and Friday's stream this week. If you want to catch more of my content, you can catch me live on twitch.tv/GauntletX every Friday for drafts, especially this Friday at 5 p.m. CDT. That is the sponsored draft, where Magic Arena is tweeting out my stream, so that is super cool. And if you want to watch more recorded videos, stay right where you're at. Like, comment, and subscribe, and there will be plenty more, some more Jumpstart events and Dominaria drafts coming out this week. So thank you all again for watching. Some pretty great prize packs to end the video, too. A Mythic Rare wildcard into a Mythic Rare as our 2 pack rares, so that feels good to end it off. So, as I said before, once again, I'd like to thank you all for watching, and I'll see you again next time for some more Magic Arena content.